The story of mines in Nevada is largely a story of serendipity. Someone stuck a hole in a place where no one ever figured there would be mineralization, and boom, there it is. That's the story of Barrett Gold Strike. Cove, Cortez Deep deposit, similar in many respects to Atlanta. Nevada is full of these things. Round Mountain, Pipeline, another serendipitous discovery. Atlanta is turning out to be an unexpectedly good story. To come up with a high-grade hit like 44, that's an explorationist's dream.
The real discovery at Atlanta has been Cal's discovery of the new geological model. The difference between what is possible with a single vein structure and a multiple vein structure is exactly what we're seeing between what was past perception at Atlanta and what people are now recognizing as its potential.
But we had clues because some of the historical holes did tap into high grade in places, but you couldn't tie it together. That's the difference now that we've made going into the Atlanta prospect. We have a model, a geologic model, by which we're now tying these high-grade hits together and expanding the size and the depth and the grade now, and you're off to the races, boys. We did not pick up the Atlanta property for the resource. We picked it up for its district scale potential, being in a caldera setting with a lot of blue sky around it, with old prospect activity, positive surface anomalies all around the rim of the caldera. We picked it up for that. We picked it up to see if it didn't have the potential for another Round Mountain hiding in that moat somewhere along the rim fracture. Originally, the southern extension of the Atlanta mineralization was thought to be limited by what we call the South Fault at the bottom south end of the pit. Between the geophysical interpretations and our own drilling angle holes to the south, we saw that there was no limit on the south side. It's looking right now like the source for much of the mineralization for the Atlanta deposit. It's under the north end of the Quartzite Ridge, and that's where we're hoping to encounter some more bonanza grades. We have the West Atlanta, we have the Atlanta King, and the East Atlanta heading down through the Quartzite Ridge. That's why you have the gold. It's the top of an anticlinal fold, meaning it's a bulge type structure. Typically in Nevada, most all of the Collin type deposits occur in this type of anticlinal bulge. That is almost a rule throughout Nevada. Well, we have one there on the Quartzite Ridge. That is an anticlinal fold. And we know from our drilling so far that as you go down the center of this ridge, we know the mineralization is going underneath the quartzite. No one saw this coming. There was no historical drilling down there to give us any indication that there was mineralization under that ridge. Now we have 7 holes. That mineralization is clearly heading south, grade is being maintained, and we're seeing high silver showing up. We're seeing high molybdenum, which is typically an indication that you've got a granitic type intrusion sitting underneath there, which is localizing this hydrothermal system. As you're going closer to the source, oftentimes you can also encounter much higher grades, bonanza grades like we hit in hole 44. Historically, all the previous operators said there is no mineralization south of the South Fault. Well, we've now drilled quite a few holes south of the South Fault, and we're hitting mineralization generally starting 400 to 500 feet down. The last hole we drilled went into it at 560 feet. We had a geophysical anomaly that clearly showed the structures were a V-shaped structural profile that cuts down through the Quartzite Ridge from the west side and the east side. And somewhere down there at about 1,000 feet, those things come together. Now, if these things are our main structures out there, and they're intersecting down there in a Y-shaped pattern, if you've got any kind of large zone of bonanza grade, that's where you would expect to find it. So, our drilling is going to be telling here pretty quick. That's one of the blue skies. We still have drilling to do on the East Ridge. You still got the North Extension out there. We still have a lot of areas out here that we still have to drill. We have a well-developed caldera ring fracture system that's localizing high-level epithermal deposits. There's more out there because we have old prospects scattered all around the rim of that caldera. And we will have 2 drills trying to track down more jewelry boxes along these other structures.
When we picked Atlanta up, the market had just about completely discounted it as an old asset that had been combed over and wasn't going to work. And fast forward to today, the old one and what we have now are hardly recognizable together. Increases in grade and potentially increases in size. This is turning into one of the most significant discoveries in the Great Basin right now. The existing resource on Atlanta actually has a pretty strong grade, 1.3 grams per ton. In Nevada, if you're dealing with an oxide deposit, the average grades are 0.7, 0.8, as low as 0.5 grams per ton. What we've seen through our drilling is the likelihood that we're going to see an appreciable increase in the grade as we go ahead and formalize a new resource.
This has the potential to be a company maker if we can find similar jewelry boxes on the other structures and we can start tying these things together. Every explorationist has to be an optimist, but at the same time you have to be a realist. And you know what the odds are. We all know what the odds are. They're against us all the time. And in this case here, we won. We beat the odds.